Shocking! Grandpa reveals secrets of pain after Grandma's death, and everything changes terribly. Clara stood on the threshold of her grandmother's house, a place that once radiated warmth, now draped in an icy silence. The familiar oak tree in the yard loomed over her, its twisted branches like skeletal fingers against the gray sky. She felt a tightness in her chest as she collected herself for the task ahead, sifting through decades of memories. Laughter now turned to echoes. Her grandmother, once a beacon of love and laughter, was gone, leaving a hollow ache in Claire's heart. With trembling hands, she pushed open the heavy wooden door, the creak reverberating through the stillness. Dust danced in the beams of muted sunlight filtering through the windows, the aroma of old books and fading. Lavender clung to the air, stirring vivid memories of summer afternoons spent on the porch with cups of steaming tea. Every corner held a fragment of her life, the walls lined with family photos that seemed to watch her with sorrowful eyes. As Clara rummaged through drawers cluttered with trinkets and forgotten notes, a shiver skittered down her spine. There, wedged between two faded postcards, lay a letter. Intrigued, she pulled it out. The paper felt brittle under her fingers, the ink smudged yet still legible. Her heart raced as she began to read her grandmother's elegant handwriting, each word pulling her deeper into a hidden past. The letter unveiled an unspeakable history, a childhood marred by unrelenting abuse, the kind that left scars invisible to the outside world. As Clara read on, her breath caught in her throat when she stumbled upon the revelation of a forbidden love, fraught with danger and desperation. A name, a man her grandmother had loved fiercely but had to forsake, jumped off the page like a specter, and the oppressive weight of those words threatened to crush her. "Clara!" Daniel's voice shattered her concentration, a mix of anger and disbelief flashing in his eyes as he stormed into the room. "What are you doing with that? You shouldn't be digging into things best left alone." The tension between them crackled, binding them in a web of conflicting emotions. Clara felt her heart race, anger swelling within her. "Why, Daniel? Why can't we just know the truth?" Daniel's face hardened. "Some secrets are meant to protect us. You don't understand." But Clara felt the air close in around her. The very streets of her childhood seemed to throb with oppressive energy, as if the town itself was aware of the family's hidden trials. She was not only fighting against Daniel, but something larger, a shadow lurking in the depths of their family legacy. Every creak of the floorboards, every whisper in the stillness felt charged with unspoken words. Just as Clara grappled with her revelation, a sudden roar shattered the quiet. Flames began to flicker ominously from the direction of the kitchen. Panic seized her as she rushed toward the chaos, her heart pounding loudly in her ears. It was then, amid the flickering shadows, that she questioned what lengths her family would go to keep their secrets buried. The fire licked at the edges of her grandmother's life, leaving her reeling, uncertain of who she could trust or if the truth would ever be hers to claim. Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming up. And since you're here, smash that like button because it really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Clara stumbled backward as the flames roared, licking hungrily at the kitchen cabinets. The smell of smoke wrapped around her, thick and acrid, suffocating her instinct to run. She burst through the doorway, Daniel hot on her heels. Desperation splashed across his face. "Call 911!" he shouted, urgency fueling his voice. But Clara stood frozen, eyes wide. The fire was consuming more than wood and paint. It was devouring the last remnants of her grandmother's past. Suddenly, she spotted something glinting through the flame. A small metal box perched precariously on the edge of the kitchen counter. It had to be important. Her heart raced. "Clara, what are you doing?" Daniel's voice broke through her haze, snapping her back to reality. Without a second thought, she rushed toward the flames, feeling the heat sear her skin. Time seemed to stretch as she reached for the box, her fingers barely grazing it before Daniel's strong arms wrapped around her waist, yanking her back just in time. "Are you insane? We have to get out!" But Clara couldn't let it go. "No, there's something in there. I have to know." She was shaking, the turmoil inside her rising with each passing second. All her family secrets were burning, and she couldn't leave without discovering what they were. "Clara, listen to me! We don't have time!" As they struggled, another blast of heat drove them away, sending a charred wooden beam crashing. Before she could protest further, sirens wailed in the distance, echoing like a promise of salvation. But that's when it happened. A voice emerged from the smoke, calm and chilling. "Let her go, Daniel." They both turned, eyes wide, adrenaline flooding their bloodstream. A tall figure stepped from the hall, backlit against the raging fire, hands raised as if in surrender. Clara's breath hitched. It was her mother, the last person she expected to see. "Mom," Clara breathed, disbelief washing over her like a wave. "What are you doing here?" Her mother smirked, a taunting glimmer in her eye. "I've always been here, Clara. You just didn't look close enough." Daniel's jaw clenched, and he stepped protectively in front of Clara. "Get away from her." But her mother brushed him off. Her gaze locked onto Clara. "You found the letter, didn't you? It's time you learned the truth." The revelation cracked through Clara's confusion, shattering it into shards of fear. "What truth?" she demanded, her voice trembling. "That your grandmother wasn't the only one with a dark past. We all wear masks, honey, even you." The heat intensified behind them as the fire spread. Clara felt faint, overwhelmed. "What do you mean?" "I'm not who you think I am. I wanted to protect you, but maybe secrets should burn." Clara's chest tightened painfully. Everything she thought she knew shattered, leaving her clinging to a crumbling foundation. She stared into her mother's eyes, searching, desperate for the truth. Just then, the metal box burst free from the flames, rolling across the floor towards them, untouched by the fire, an ominous silence enveloping its arrival. Clara and her mother locked eyes, an unspoken challenge hanging heavy in the air. "Do you dare to open it?" her mother taunted as the sirens drew closer. Clara crouched over the box, heart racing. What could it hold? A key to understanding the past, or something darker, pulling her family's shadowed history into the light? As she hovered over it, the air crackled with tension, the flames roaring behind her like a sinister audience. Clara looked at her mother, then at Daniel, both waiting for her next move. Would she take the plunge into the unknown? Clara lifted the lid, breath held, knowing whatever happened next would change everything. Clara lifted the lid of the metal box, heart racing. Smoke, whirling around her like a sinister fog. Inside was a collection of photographs, yellowed edges, images of her grandmother smiling, but beside her, a figure lurked, indistinct. The moment felt electric, the air thick with anticipation. She held her breath, fingers trembling. What more lay within this cryptic treasure? Then, as she sifted through the images, a piece of paper fluttered out. Clara's eyes snapped to it as it drifted to the floor. She bent down, grabbing it with shaky hands. It was another letter, this one scrawled hastily, the ink still wet as if it had just been written. "Clara," Daniel shouted, urgency slicing through the chaos. "We need to leave." But she didn't move. Her mother stood in the shadows, eyes gleaming, mouth twisted into a smirk. Clara tore. Open the letter, flesh creeping with dread. It read, "If you're reading this, it's too late. The truth must remain hidden for Clara's safety." "Safety?" Clara echoed, fear squeezing her chest. "Mom, what does this mean?" she demanded, eyes wide, pulse racing. "What are you hiding?" But her mother didn't answer, her expression a mix of amusement and pity. Suddenly, another roar erupted from the fire, and the floor groaned ominously beneath them. Clara glanced back at Daniel, who was grabbing her arm, pulling her toward the door. "We have to go, now." Just then, the box trembled in her grasp. Startled, Clara felt her mind spin. It unlatched and burst wide open. A blinding flash of light erupted from inside, sending her staggering backward, the letter slipping from her fingers. The hell? Then something emerged, not swirling smoke, but a figure slowly taking form against the raging fire. It was a woman, tall and ethereal, moving through the heat as if untouched. Clara's breath hitched. Her grandmother? But then the figure transformed, warping into something barely recognizable, and Clara gasped. Who are you?" Her voice trembled, confusion and fear intertwining. The spectral figure smiled, revealing eyes like black pits, and spoke in a chilling whisper. "I'm here to tell you the truth, Clara. Your family isn't just hiding secrets. They're hiding me." "What?" Clara could barely comprehend, feeling the world shift around her. It was as if the ground was giving way, and all she had known felt like shattered glass beneath her feet. The figure pointed at her. "Mother. She sought to erase me, to bury our legacy of pain and power. But it's too late, Clara. The flame you see is not just destruction. It's a rebirth, a reckoning." Her mother's calm facade cracked, rage replacing feigned nonchalance. "You don't know what you're doing. Stay away from her." The figure laughed, a sound like glass breaking. "You don't understand, do you? Clara wasn't supposed to find me. She was never meant to be dragged into this web of darkness." As they stood, Clara's heart raced. "What are you talking about? Who are you?" "I am a piece of your history, a truth that can't be silenced. There's so much more, Clara. A legacy of power, power that's coursing through your veins." The room twisted. The flames roared louder, and Clara felt the heat singe her skin. Her family history swirled around her, drowning her thoughts. The revelation swam in her mind, impossible to grasp. And just like that, the figure turned, disappearing into the smoke, leaving Clara breathless, uncertainty closing in like a vice around her chest. She looked at her mother, whose face showed fear, betrayal, and something else, desperation. "Clara, listen to me." But Clara barely heard. She stumbled back, words swirling in her mind. "Who am I? What am I?" And as the sirens of the fire truck drew closer, Clara's sense of reality cracked wide open. The smoke thickened, enveloping her as she stood at the edge of her breaking world. Instead of stepping neatly into the chaos, she was now caught between a truth she'd never wanted and the family she'd never understood. What would happen next? The room filled with uncertainty as the flames flickered. Something dark was rising, and Clara had to decide if she would face it or run from it. The air crackled with unanswered questions, and she was left teetering on the brink of everything she thought she knew. Clara's heart pounded as the flames danced around her, closing in like a hungry beast. The spectral figure had vanished, leaving her in a haze of confusion and dread. Her mother stood too close, eyes wild and dangerous, a predator trapped. Daniel tugged at her arm, urging her toward the door, but Clara felt frozen, torn between fear and the burning curiosity inside her. "Mom, what are you not telling me?" she demanded, voice thick with panic. The smoke stung her eyes, but it was her mother's silence that hurt most. "Clara, you don't understand," her mother began, but the crackle of flames cut her off. The heat clawed at Clara's skin, a reminder that time was running out. "Who is that woman? What do you mean by a legacy of power?" Clara was desperate, her fingers trembling over the metal box at her side. She felt it pulse with unspoken stories. "You're better off forgetting her," her mother spat, anger spilling over. "No good can come from digging into the past." A loud crash echoed through the room as a large piece of the ceiling gave way, showering them with ash and debris. Clara's heart sank. They had to get out, but she couldn't leave, empty-handed. Not now, not after everything she had learned. The heat intensified, and she looked down at the box in her hands again. What was so important that it had drawn her to the brink of disaster? Just then, the door behind them burst open, and two firefighters in full gear stormed in, cutting through the chaos. "Get out, now!" one shouted, glancing between Clara and her mother. But her mother stood rigid, eyes locked onto Clara. "Listen to me, Clara," she cried, desperation etched in every line of her face. "You can't trust anyone. You have to go, now!" The urgency in her voice felt wrong, like a warning bell. For the first time, Clara saw her mother, not just as a caregiver, but as someone hiding a tangled web of fear and guilt. "Clara!" Daniel yelled, grabbing her arm again. "We have to go! Please!" Everything exploded into chaos. The firefighters pushed them toward the exit, but Clara hesitated, feeling the weight of the box in her hands. What could she leave behind? The truths that lingered like ghosts behind her? Then, just as she was about to step out, the metal box gave a violent shake and the lid flew open once more. Clara barely had time to react as a gust of wind erupted from it, sending a cascade of papers swirling into the air. Photographs and letters danced around her, like lost souls escaping confinement. And then she saw it. A photograph that slid out from the others, and Clara's breath hitched in her throat. The image was of her mother, younger, with a man standing beside her, wrapped in the same shadowy tendrils of dark history. But the twist was undeniable. The man wasn't just anyone. No, he was the very man named in her grandmother's letter. a lover long lost. Her mother's face paled as she noticed the image too. "No! Clara! That's not what you think!" she shouted, voice trembling as panic welled inside her. "What is this? Are you and this man connected?" The question burst out like a dam breaking, raw and powerful. "You don't understand! It's complicated!" her mother cried, fear flickering like the fire around them. But it was too late. The firefighters were pulling them toward the door, and Clara felt her foot slip back at the sight of that haunting photograph. The resemblance was unmistakable, the shadows of her family history closing in tighter than the flames. Just as they crossed the threshold into the cool air outside, a massive wood beam collapsed behind them, sending plumes of dust and ash into the air. Clara turned back, eyes wide as it registered in her mind. "You were hiding him! You were hiding everything!" Her mother's face crumpled, the fury melting into horror. "Clara, please!" But Clara didn't hear her. She felt the world shift beneath her. The mystery of her family tangled deeper than she'd ever imagined. The firefighters ushered them away from the blaze, but Clara's mind raced with questions. What secrets had her mother kept? And what did it mean for Clara's own legacy? Was she truly prepared to carry the weight of this truth? And as sirens blared in the distance, she realized the fire might have been a mere spark, but the chaos growing inside her was a wildfire waiting to break free. What would she do next? The fire roared behind them, licking hungrily at the remnants of her grandmother's past, while Clara felt the truth shift like the ground beneath her feet. Sirens blared, and the cool night air mixed with smoke, creating a thick haze that made her head spin. The photograph lay between her fingers, still warm, and there was a knot in her chest that felt heavier than the flames. "Clara, we're leaving!" Daniel shouted, pulling her away from the entrance. Her mother's eyes darted between them, a wild panic sparking in her gaze. "No, don't believe her," she yelled, pointing at the spot where the vision had appeared moments before. "Believe who?" Clara gasped, still dazed and trying to comprehend what was happening. The figure, her grandmother, the legacy of power, it was all too much to take in. But then it happened. In the rush of the moment, there was a loud crack, and the air filled with a deafening noise. Clara turned just in time to see another beam fall from the roof, crashing to the ground. It sent up a cloud of ashes that swallowed the figures of the firefighters, who had been trying to clear a path for them. But then she heard it. A whisper cutting through the chaos. An unmistakable sound that sent chills down her spine. "Clara." She froze. The voice wasn't her mother or Daniel. It resonated with familiar warmth, tinged with something haunting. "Clara, listen to me." "Grandma?" she cried, scanning the thick smoke as if she could make her grandmother materialize in front of her. "Clara, you must find it. The truth lies beneath." "What? Find what?" Her heart raced. The fire roared, encapsulating her thoughts. Yet she heard her grandmother's voice clearer now, as if it wrapped around her like a lover's embrace. But just as she felt herself drawn toward the sound, another crack echoed above. The firefighters yelled for everyone to get back. In a frantic whirl, she saw Daniel's face, riddled with fear. He was looking not at the fire, but beyond it. Then she turned and gasped. Through the drifting smoke emerged a figure. Emerging from the shadows, taller than before, cloaked in a dark silhouette unmistakably like her grandmother, but twisted with rage and anguish. "Enough!" the voice thundered, a feral growl that roiled like the flames surrounding them. It was a form both familiar and foreign, a face she had memorized, now contorted into something unrecognizable. "Who are you?" Clara's voice trembled, hanging in the air laced with ash. Panic swept through the group as they recoiled, pressed closer against the wall. "I am what she tried to destroy, the truth you fear. Release me, Clara." "Stay back!" her mother screamed, stepping in front of Clara, shielding her as if protecting her from a storm. But Clara felt the urge to go forward. "No! You're my grandmother!" "Your grandmother lies," the figure hissed, flaring. With an unnatural energy, "She hides what you deserve to inherit, what you are meant to be." A collective gasp rose from those standing close, murmurs of fear echoing around them. Her mother stepped back, breaths quickening as if caught off guard by the revelation. "What have you done?" she stammered, eyes wide with horrified realization. "I was born to rise," the figure said, menace dripping from every word. "This world was never meant for who I was, only for who you were destined to become." And with that, the room darkened, an unnatural chill sweeping through the air. As the flames flickered wildly, Clara could almost see the shadows, creating intricate patterns around her. Whispers of long-buried secrets swirling into existence. "Don't you see, Clara?" her mother cried. "We're in danger." "You can't believe her. We must go." But Clara stood trembling, heart racing. "I have to know the truth." The figure let out a bone-chilling laugh, a sound that echoed like a haunting melody, rich with sorrow and power. And then she pointed directly at Clara, the shadows deepening around them. "Then let the flame judge your heart. You have a choice to make." Clara glanced at the box in her hand, the photos scattered at her feet, the weight of her family's history heavy on her shoulders. The flames pressed closer, and the figure loomed ever larger, a specter of fate, leaving only one question burning in the air. Which legacy would she choose? Suddenly, with an explosion of heat, Clara felt a force pulling her as the flames surged forward. And she knew everything was about to change. The flames roared around them, an inferno hungry for more than just wood and paint. Clara's heart raced, caught between the past and a future that felt impossibly tangled. The figure loomed, a distorted echo of her grandmother, whispering secrets and threats. Her mother stood defensively between them, desperate to maintain the fragile facade of safety. "Clara, don't listen," her mother cried, eyes wide with panic. Only moments ago, they had been connected by blood and love, but now an unbridgeable gap yawned between them, filled with centuries of deception. "Why did you lie?" Clara's voice was raw, trembling with emotion. She longed not just for answers, but for understanding. "What are you afraid of?" "I'm afraid of what will happen when you see the truth." Her mother's voice cracked, revealing layers of pain Clara had never seen before. Suddenly, the figure shifted, flickering as if the flames beckoned it closer. "The truth you seek will set you free, Clara, but it may also destroy everything you love." Before Clara could respond, another crash echoed through the room. The ceiling groaned, and Clara whipped around just as a massive piece of wood fell, nearly trapping one of the firefighters. Daniel yanked her with him, his grip firm and urgent, pulling them toward the flickering exit. "We have to go!" he shouted, panic lighting his eyes. But Clara couldn't tear herself away. The chaos was escalating, and the air crackled with tension. She felt like a live coil in that moment as the heat from the blaze intensified. "No, I need to know," she cried, adrenaline pouring through her veins. The metal box pulsed against her side, a reminder of her family's hidden truths. "Clara!" Daniel's voice was tight. "Please, let's think about this later. You're in danger." Just as she opened her mouth to protest again, out of the corner of her eye, she noticed something flicker in the flames. A golden light slicing through the darkness, as if the universe itself had broken. The fire sputtered, and in an instant, the air around them shifted, charged with electricity. All at once, the entire house trembled, reverberating with an otherworldly roar. Clara stumbled back, grounding herself against the wall. And it was then her mother exploded into a whirlwind of motion, tearing off her mask of calm. "Get out, now!" she screamed. And with that, she pushed Clara and Daniel toward the door. "Mom!" Clara shouted, confusion washing over her. "What are you doing?" But her mother's face twisted in agony, and it was clear there was no stopping the impending storm. "No time! Just go!" Then, in that harrowing instant, Clara froze, her blood running cold. Her mother stepped back from them, revealing a glimmering badge clipped to her waistband. It gleamed against her clothes, and Clara felt the air leave her lungs. "FBI?" Clara breathed, disbelief coursing through her. You're a federal agent?" But the truth sliding into place was like ice in her gut. "What have you been hiding?" she demanded. "What else don't I know?" Then a chilling silence fell, just as the flames surged higher, filling the room with a strange light. Their mother turned slowly toward them, eyes now ancient and layered with truths long buried. "I did it to protect you, Clara. But now, everything has changed." The room ignited with chaos. The figure of her grandmother twisted away into darkness, laughter swirling around them like smoke. "You think your family is just a story? No, Clara. You are the next chapter." The ground beneath them shuddered, flames entwining into supernatural forms, shadows clawing at Clara's sanity. "Run!" shouted Daniel, his voice piercing through the haze of confusion. And as they stepped into the night, drawn against their will away from the ruin of their past, Clara glanced back one last time. A fireball erupted from the house, illuminating her mother's face, a mask of sorrow and resolve. "Clara, find me when you're ready to face it all!" she cried, her words swallowed by the inferno. "Mom!" But it was too late. With one last desperate look, Clara raced away, a revelation waiting, but the truth still shrouded in darkness. Who had her mother been all along? Why hadn't she let her in? And what had she really been protecting Clara from? The questions burned brighter than the raging fire, leaving Clara hungry for answers in a world that felt irrevocably broken. Clara sprinted away from the flames, the air thick with smoke, her heart pounding, louder than the sirens blaring in the distance. The confrontation with her mother echoed in her mind, each word a jagged piece of a puzzle she couldn't quite grasp. "Clara!" Daniel's voice yanked her from the chaos. He was a few steps ahead, guiding her away from the fiery chaos. She stumbled, her breath coming in ragged gasps, the photograph still clutched in her hand. "We have to keep moving." His face was pale with fear, but his grip was firm. She looked back at the burning house, the shadows dancing ominously in the flames. "What is happening? What did my mother mean?" "They'll explain everything," he hesitated. "Once we're safe." But Clara couldn't shake the weight of her mother's words. The figure from the fire, her grandmother's spectral image, felt like a tether pulling her back. "No, I can't leave!" She yanked her arm away, her resolve hardening. She had to confront whatever truth lay in the ashes, before Daniel could protest. Clara turned back to the house, adrenaline propelling her forward. The firefighters were battling the flames, their shouts blending into a cacophony of urgency. Pushing through the throng of onlookers, she barely noticed the smattering of rain beginning to fall from the darkening sky. Just as Clara neared the entrance, a loud crack echoed behind her. She spun around, eyes wide. A figure burst from the smoke, stumbling toward her. "Clara!" They were covered in ash, but Clara recognized her mother's voice, frantic and desperate. "Don't go in!" With a jolt of fear, Clara froze. "Mom!" A stranger suddenly shoved past her, rushing to the flames with reckless abandon. As Clara stepped back, something strange caught her eye. Another figure emerged from the shadows behind the gathering crowd. Her heart dropped. The man in the photograph, the figure she'd seen with her mother. He stepped forward, eyes dark and intense, locking onto Clara with a knowing gaze. "Mom, who is he?" she shouted, confusion fraying her nerves. Her mother's expression shifted, fear escalating into outright terror. "No, Clara, get away from him!" The man grinned, a sinister twist to his lips. "It's time, Clara. You must know the truth." "No!" Her mother's eyes were wide, pleading, but also filled with anger. "You don't understand. He can't be trusted." But the man only chuckled, stepping closer, confidence radiating from him. "Trust is a relative term, isn't it? You have a legacy to uphold, Clara. You thought you knew your family, but your mother has kept you in the dark." The weight of his words hung heavily. "What do you mean?" Clara felt her pulse quicken as tension ran through the crowd. "Your grandmother was part of a hidden world, a line of power and secrets." His voice dropped, laced with authority. "And you, Clara, are the key to unlocking it." The air thickened with anticipation as Clara exchanged desperate glances with her mother, whose expression twisted with anguish. "No! Stay away from her!" Before Clara could respond, the air shifted again. A sudden flash blinded them as a wave of heat surged from the house, pushing everyone back. The flames roared, contorting into wild shapes as the fire grew. "Clara, run!" Daniel shouted, tugging at her arm. But Clara felt paralyzed, her mind reeling. The man's words echoed in her ears. "You're part of something bigger than you realize." Then it hit her, a realization so shocking it stopped her breath. "I'm not just Clara, am I?" She was more than a granddaughter, more than her mother's daughter. "Your blood is tied to them." The man grinned, knowing he had her. "And it shows." In that moment, everything shifted. Clara felt the ground under her shake, not just from the fire, but from the weight of her family's hidden history crashing down around her. And just as the truth began to settle, a loud explosion erupted from the house. Flames shot skyward like fingers reaching for the heavens, illuminating the night with a blinding light. Clara's world tilted, the air crackling with energy. "Clara!" her mother screamed, voice breaking through the chaos. But Clara felt the pull. Towards the burning house, the figure of her grandmother shimmering in the flames, calling her back. "What do I do?" And that was the moment everything changed. As she teetered on the edge of a revelation, The ground beneath her began to give way, each choice leading her deeper down a path she never wanted to follow. Who could she trust? What legacy awaited her? And in the moment of fire and shadow, Clara realized she had to decide what she was willing to lose. Clara stood at the edge of chaos, her heart racing as the flames clawed at the night sky. Dozens of firefighters were battling the inferno, but her gaze was locked on the man from the photograph. He was grinning, his eyes like storm clouds, swirling with something dark and powerful. Just behind him, her mother's face flickered with shock, betrayal written all over it. "Clara, you have to trust me!" her mother shouted, desperation thick in her voice. The tension crackled through the air, thick as the smoke swirling around them. But Clara felt herself drawn to that man, a pull that whispered to her blood. "Trust you?" Clara gasped, feeling the heat of both the flames and the crowd. "He knows something. I can feel it. Who is he, Mom?" Daniel's voice broke through. "What does he want with Clara?" Silence fell, heavy and thick. All eyes turned to her mother, who seemed to shrink under their scrutiny. The man stepped forward, his demeanor casual, as if the chaos around him didn't exist. "I'm merely an acquaintance. But your mother has kept this from you for too long. Get back!" her mother warned, stepping forward like a protective lioness. But Clara couldn't shake the feeling that this was all spiraling into something deeper. "What don't I know?" She could barely breathe, her heart constricting. "Clara," her mother began, but a sudden explosion of heat erupted behind them. Clara instinctively stepped back, the flames roaring higher as they seemed to mock her hesitation. In that moment, a loud crack echoed, and panic rose anew. Then it happened. The ground beneath them shifted violently. What the? The world tilted as an underground rumble erupted. Clara stumbled, Daniel grabbing her wrist just as the asphalt cracked and a gaping hole opened, dark and unfathomable, right in front of them. "Clara, run!" Daniel shouted, pulling her away from the menacing void, but the ground was giving way. Shocks of fear rippled through the crowd, and that was when Clara saw it. Glimmering beneath the chaos, a faint light flickered at the bottom of the hole. "What is that?" Her voice felt weak, but the allure of the light was undeniable. "Clara!" her mother screamed, eyes wide with terror. "No!" But the man stepped closer to the edge, his expression transforming into something almost predatory. "It calls to you, doesn't it? Your true legacy awaits." "Shut up!" her mother shot back, rage battling fear in her voice. "You're not welcome here. You never were." Clara's heart raced, exhaustion mixing with adrenaline. The choice felt monumental, yet so raw and instinctual. Who was this man? The shadows of the past loomed over her mother, twisting their relationship into something grotesque. And just then, something unimaginable happened. The flames erupted into the night, sending ash swirling like snow. A torso, hazy and indistinct, began to rise from the depths of the hole. It looked like a woman, a spectral figure gliding toward them. "No, not now!" her mother cried out, her eyes wider than ever. "Is it you?" Clara whispered, recognizing that presence from her dreams. "Grandma?" The figure nodded slowly, a glow emanating from her semblance. "Clara, you must understand. The truth is more twisted than you know." The crowd gasped, everyone frozen as if time stood still. The ground trembled again, and as the light intensified, Clara stared in disbelief. The figure transformed, revealing not just her grandmother, but also details hidden for years, scars stitched over her arms, eyes reflecting pain that didn't start or end with just one generation. "What did you do?" Clara's voice broke, the question bursting free. "What did you do to my family?" The image within the hole flickered, and in an instant the air grew heavy with a confession decades old. A heartbreaking truth hung in the air. Clara watched, eyes wide, as her mother's face twisted with realization, tears forming. Then it struck her. The man wasn't just any stranger. He was her mother's past, her grandmother's shadow. The twisted threads of their legacy tangled together, revealing a long-buried secret they'd fought to keep hidden. And just as the true nature of their family unraveled like thread in a fraying tapestry, Clara felt the ground shift beneath her, a question lingering in the air. What was she made of? Her breath hitched, and the flames danced in anticipation. The chaos around them roared louder, and Clara realized the secrets were far from over. The true legacy lay at her feet, begging to be uncovered. What would happen next? Clara stood at the edge of chaos, her heart racing as the flames clawed at the night sky. Dozens of firefighters were battling the inferno, but her gaze was locked on the man from the photograph. He was grinning, his eyes like storm clouds, swirling with something dark and powerful. Just behind him, her mother's face flickered with shock, betrayal written all over it. "Clara, you have to trust me," her mother shouted, desperation thick in her voice. The tension crackled through the air, thick as the smoke swirling around them. But Clara felt herself drawn to that man, a pull that whispered to her blood. "Trust you?" Clara gasped, feeling the heat of both the flames and the crowd. "He knows something. I can feel it." "Who is he, Mom?" Daniel's voice broke through. "What does he want with Clara?" Silence fell, heavy and thick. All eyes turned to her mother, who seemed to shrink under their scrutiny. The man stepped forward, his demeanor casual, as if the chaos around him didn't exist. "I'm merely an acquaintance, but your mother has kept this from you for too long." "Get back!" her mother warned, stepping forward like a protective lioness. But Clara couldn't shake the feeling that this was all spiraling into something deeper. "What don't I know?" She could barely breathe, her heart constricting. "Clara," her mother began, but a sudden explosion of heat erupted behind them. Clara instinctively stepped back, the flames roaring higher as they seemed to mock her hesitation. In that moment, a loud crack echoed, and panic rose anew. Then it happened. The ground beneath them shifted violently. "What the?" The world tilted as an underground rumble erupted. Clara stumbled, Daniel grabbing her wrist, just as the asphalt cracked and a gaping hole opened, dark and unfathomable, right in front of them. "Clara, run!" Daniel shouted, pulling her away from the menacing void. But the ground was giving way. Shocks of fear rippled through the crowd, and that was when Clara saw it. Glimmering beneath the chaos, a faint light flickered at the bottom of the hole. "What is that?" Her voice felt weak, but the allure of the light was undeniable. "Clara!" her mother screamed, eyes wide with terror. "No!" But the man stepped closer to the edge, his expression transforming into something almost predatory. "It calls to you, doesn't it? Your true legacy awaits." "Shut up!" her mother shot back. rage battling fear in her voice. "You're not welcome here." "You never were." Clara's heart raced, exhaustion mixing with adrenaline. The choice felt monumental, yet so raw and instinctual. Who was this man? The shadows of the past loomed over her mother, twisting their relationship into something grotesque. And just then, something unimaginable happened. The flames erupted into the night, sending ash swirling like snow. A torso, hazy and indistinct, began to rise from the depths of the hole. It looked like a woman, a spectral figure gliding toward them. "No, not now!" her mother cried out, her eyes wider than ever. "Is it you?" Clara whispered, recognizing that presence from her dreams. "Grandma?" The figure nodded slowly, a glow emanating from her semblance. "Clara, you must understand. The truth is more twisted than you know." The crowd gasped. Everyone frozen as if time stood still. The ground trembled again, and as the light intensified, Clara stared in disbelief. The figure transformed, revealing not just her grandmother, but also details hidden for years. Scars stitched over her arms, eyes reflecting pain that didn't start or end with just one generation. "What did you do?" Clara's voice broke, the question bursting free. "What did you do to my family?" The image within the hole flickered, and in an instant, the air grew heavy with a confession decades old. A heartbreaking truth hung in the air. Clara watched, eyes wide, as her mother's face twisted with realization, tears forming. Then it struck her. The man wasn't just any stranger. He was her mother's past, her grandmother's shadow, the twisted threads of their legacy tangled together, revealing a long-buried secret they'd fought to keep hidden. And just as the true nature of their family unraveled like thread in a fraying tapestry, Clara felt the ground shift beneath her. A question lingering in the air. What was she made of? Her breath hitched, and the flames danced in anticipation. The chaos around them roared louder, and Clara realized the secrets were far from over. The true legacy lay at her feet, begging to be uncovered. What would happen next? But before she could process it all, the ground split open wider, and a powerful force surged up from the darkness below. A bright white light erupted in a blinding flash, engulfing them. As Clara shielded her eyes, she heard her mother's voice cut through the chaos. "Clara, don't!" The light overtook everything, enveloping her in warmth, then freezing her core. Sounds faded, shadows swallowed by the brilliance. And just like that, the world spun. When the light dimmed, Clara found herself standing in an unfamiliar room, the scent of jasmine filling the air. It looked like her grandmother's parlor, but different, brighter, somehow alive with energy. "Welcome home, Clara," a soft voice said from the corner. Clara's heart dropped. The speaker was her grandmother, but she looked different, younger, radiant and alive. A smile graced her lips, and all at once, it felt like the air was sucked from Clara's lungs. "Where am I?" she stammered, panic igniting. Her grandmother stepped forward, eyes shimmering with ancient wisdom, a temple of truth. "Where your legacy unfolds, but it's time for everything to change." Before Clara could respond, a figure rushed in, a young man, dark eyes blazing with determination. "You need to listen," he said urgently. "Everything you've ever known is a lie." Clara's mind reeled. A lie? Her family? Her very existence? The walls seemed to pulse. With a heartbeat of their own, shadows growing darker at the edges. "What do you mean?" But just then, the walls trembled and vibrations rattled through the room, urgent and raw. Something awakened. Clara felt it deep within her. Something waiting to break free. What was happening? The shadows curled around her, coiling tight like a snake, ready to strike. Secrets threatened to spill, but at what cost? In that moment, Clara realized that the world she thought she knew was fragile. The light dimmed, the shadows stirred, and she knew every choice from this point on would determine not only her fate, but the fate of everything she held dear. What lay ahead? In this tangled web of truth and shadow, Clara's world was spinning out of control, and she had no idea where it would land. The light flickered around Clara, intensifying the shadows that twisted along the walls of her grandmother's parlor. Her heart raced, caught in a chaotic swirl of revelations and emotions. The air shimmered with energy as the spectral figure of her grandma lingered, overshadowed by the formidable presence of the man who had unwittingly unlocked this thunderous truth. "Clara!" he shouted over the low rumble reverberating through the room. "You need to seize your destiny now. Your family isn't just rich with history. It's a powerful legacy that you're meant to command." "But at what cost?" she whispered, trembling. Her grandmother glided closer, a warm smile on her face. But Clara could still sense the pain lurking beneath her gaze. "Is this what I was meant for?" "Some legacies come at a price," her grandmother said softly, looking Clara in the eye. "But it's time for the darkness to meet the light. You can break the cycle. You have the strength within you." "Break the cycle," Clara echoed, the words resonating deep within her. The unfamiliar light cast shimmering reflections over the room, illuminating the hidden crevices of her family's history that lay dormant, waiting to be uncovered. Suddenly, she understood. This was her moment to choose. "I want to know," she declared, voice steady. "I want the truth. I want to face whatever lies within me. I choose the light over the shadows." In that instant, a surge of energy ignited from the depths of her being. Intertwining with the power of the room, the shadows shifted, swirling around her, and dissipating like smoke in the breeze. Clara felt a thread of connection weaving through her family's legacy, ancient and unbreakable. And she was the one destined to steer it toward healing. The figure of her grandmother smiled wider, proud, relieved. "Yes, Clara, embrace who you are." Just then, the ground shook, the shadows retreating, as if fleeing from an impending storm. Power coursed through Clara, igniting her senses. She felt her fears dissolve, replaced by a profound understanding of her past, her lineage, and her purpose. "You are not alone in this battle," the man interjected, stepping back to reveal a path leading deeper into the parlor, shrouded in flickering light. "The truth you seek is through the veil." The walls began to pulse, echoes of voices long silenced filtering through them. Clara stood solid, ready to bridge the gap between her family's hidden pains and the future she envisioned. "Then let's do this together," she said defiantly. Daniel, who had been watching the unfolding drama with wide eyes, stepped forward. "Clara, I'm with you." He took her hand, grounding her as they faced the shadowy echoes that had haunted them for generations. Her mother, finally breaking free of her own turmoil, rushed forward, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry," Clara, I did it to protect you, but you deserve the truth. With a deep breath, Clara turned to her mother. Give me your hand. Let's uncover the truth together. In that moment of unity, fire flared across the walls, merging light and darkness until they swirled together, creating an ethereal tapestry woven from their collective fears and hopes. What had once been hidden found its way to the surface, and as the colors mingled, the shadows transformed, revealing bits of family history, pain, and love entwined. The parlor glowed brightly, dispelling the darkness that had lingered for too long. Clara felt light and purpose flood her being as the energy surged around them. Welcome, Clara, her grandmother's voice echoed, softer now, full of warmth. You are the keeper of our truths. It's time to heal. With resolve, Clara stepped forward. The scene expanded into a greater landscape, vast and open, filled with potential. They stood at the threshold of rebirth, together, embracing the pain, but also the possibility of change. The cyclical power of generational trauma was fading, making way for understanding, love, and a brighter future. As Clara held her mother's hand tighter, a sense of peace washed over them. The shadows no longer loomed large. Instead, they transformed into gentle reminders of the strength that would guide them forward. With a final deep breath, Clara felt the last vestiges of doubt dissolve, leaving only fierce determination. This was the beginning of a new legacy, woven tightly with the threads of forgiveness, healing, and courage. Time felt palpable in that room as the old shadows gave way to their shared transfusion of light. For the first time, Clara knew who she was meant to be. And now, if you are buzzing with anticipation and don't want to miss any unfolding stories, you have to subscribe right now. This is the moment to show your support for our channel. Smash that like button to feed the algorithm and tell the universe you love this story. Flood the comment section with your thoughts and theories about the ending, because every word matters. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how this all ends. Your actions can drive our community's energy. Together, we create the magic.